I think ultimately that gave me the ability to study and watch and look at what makes people popular. What makes people, why are people drawn to certain people? What is it that they have? And over time, I guess I learned one at this age is to really truly honor myself and be myself and don't try to be like anybody else. And it's okay to say no to something that isn't right for me, even when everybody else is doing it.
In life, connections are one of the most crucial things that we can develop and grow through and get to because they sometimes make or break you. And I'm so grateful to have Jill with us today, who actually deals with connections on a normal basis, and that is part of her business. Jill, welcome, my dear.
Oh, thank you, Rima. Thanks for having me. It's so exciting to be a part of your podcast and to be here today with your
I
listeners viewers.
I so appreciate you. I'd love for the listeners to know a little bit about you before we get going. Would you give us a little bit about your background, like where you grew up, a little bit about who you are so they know why you're doing what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, at 52 years old, I feel like I'm 38, but that's okay. Yeah, health wise, I'm great. I have to say, it's so many places I could go with that. And to cut it short, I think I will say that I was probably one of the least popular kids in school growing up. And there's probably many reasons for that. But I think ultimately that gave me the ability to study and watch and look at what makes people popular. What makes people, why are people drawn to certain people? What is it that they have? And over time, I guess I learned one at this age is to really truly honor myself and be myself and don't try to be like anybody else. And it's okay to say no to something that isn't right for me, even when everybody else is doing it. When I was in seventh grade, I remember looking at, well, first of all, second grade, my mom, we first moved to a new city. Was born in Wisconsin, and I was very Midwestern, just nice, hi, my name's Jill Collins. I'm from Wisconsin, like, and there was just, that was me. And so when we moved to this new city, I was picked on and I didn't know how to handle that. And I think it was one of those things that I was just myself. And then I lost that. And I tried to learn how to figure out how to fix and how to be like other people. So, of course, I had a group of friends, but they weren't popular either. So, by the time I hit seventh grade, I saw all these little popular groups and people walking around and saying hi to each other and being like this little thing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to create my own group. And so I created this group for the unpopular people. And the long and short of it is I got a little form and I had everybody sign their name and their phone number and put it in. My mom made copies and I gave it to everybody. So we had our own group. And so we ended up um, walking around and we acted like we were the popular people, but we had our own group. And so I got people that were, the nerds, the freaks, the whatever people had their little categories, I don't know, the people who were just not, they were different. And so I got all those together and I said, instead of everybody having their own little unpopular cliques, let's all come together. So long and short of it, there's a list of about 50 people on it, 40 or 50, I can't remember exactly. And the cool thing is, to this day, many of them are still friends. They still live in the same town or city that I grew up in, and their kids are friends. And it's so cool. So I guess I learned from that is create your own connection, your own way of doing it. And then I went through life. I had a professional life, a career. I was in real estate and land acquisition for a residential home builder. I was in public affairs, government affairs, I should say. And then I got really active in politics and I ran for office. I was appointed to many boards at a very young age. I was really doing well in my late 20s without a college education. By the way, I had 1 year of college at the time, but I was really good at connecting with people, finding the people that, as I teach this 33% rule, I love it so much. It's that trying to find the top level 33% of people that scare you a little bit. And this is what I encourage everyone to do is when you figure out what you want to be, is finding those people that are where you want to be. Reach out to them. It's scary. It's the people that'll scare you a little bit. And I did that. I found this mentor that I just really wanted to be like her. I just totally was in awe of what she did. She was a leader in the community. And I called her and asked her for lunch. And I was sweating. I was scared. I was shaking. My voice was cracking. And she said yes. And I couldn't believe it. Well, that one connection changed my life. She helped me with my career. I got so many places, to so many places and experiences because of that one connection. And so I encourage people to do that. I always try to do that. I'm always asking myself when I need something, or someone else I know needs something, is who do I know? Or who do I know who knows someone? And so I went through life and I did that. I ran for office and didn't win, but that's okay. It was the closest race in that election cycle in the state of Florida at the time, about 20 years ago. And then I met my husband, and we were married for 14 years. And the one stipulation I had was I couldn't run for office again, but we really worked with other candidates. I helped other people get elected, and that was really rewarding. But then over time, he sold his company and we wanted to retire somewhere. And so we thought New York City was the place. And after some time, a couple of years of going, I was on a board there and we would go several times a year. We came to Argentina as like kind of a fluke. We were like, a vacation, let's check this out. And so we did. And after about a week of being here, we decided we should consider it as a possibility. We both looked at each other one day in a cafe here and we said, which is where I am in Buenos Aires, Argentina right now. And we both looked at each other and said, what do you think about here instead? So a year later, we came back and bought a place. But I'll get into more of that later. But to give you the ideas, I've had a corporate life. I've had a life of being retired where I traveled a lot and didn't work actively. And I've always been mission and purpose driven. And so my whole purpose in life is to connect others, to connect people, to find out what it is that's missing and make it even better. So I think we'll go from there, and you can see what else to dive
Thank you for
into.
the gems that you've already dropped. I hope people are really getting all the gems you've said to them so far.
Yeah.
What do you think in the club that you created, where the kids have stayed together now that they're adults and their kids are friends? What is it in that that made them stay together that was different than the high click groups or the popular groups?
I think because they saw that it didn't matter if you were popular or not. They were part of something that was created that they where they really belonged. Because before, I think perhaps is that it was the connections that they had or the friends they had were out of more necessity. They were alike. They were similar, whether it be their weight, or the way that the interests that they had. They didn't fit into whatever this society says is what we're supposed to be. And they adapted and just connected by that. But when they were actually brought into a bigger group that accepted them, that maybe people were different and they had an identity of being part of this unpopular group. I mean, literally kids would say, the popular kids, I know they came up to some of them and would say, hey, aren't you in that unpopular group? And they're like, yeah, I am. Uh-huh. And so it was just a label, but they had an identity of belonging somewhere. And that's what I want for everyone to have. If you don't have that group, find one, create one, because it doesn't have to be what society says it should be. It's what you make of it, and it's how you identify yourself. Your identity is really becomes in who you believe you are. If I'm overweight and I want to get thin, and I want to lose weight and I want to be healthy and fit, I don't just have to say I'm going to start running every day, or I'm going to practice yoga, or I'm going to eat less. I have to literally identify myself and say, I'm an athlete. I'm a healthy eater. I'm really into nutrition, because that shifts exactly who we are. We can't truly change long term until we really believe that what we want, that who we are, that what we want is we truly believe who we are, is that identity. I stopped drinking 4 years ago, and the first short period of time I was like, I'm just doing it for now. And people would ask me, when are you going to drink again? Just have one. And during that time, it was a real struggle. I won't go into great detail on that, but I think once I said, "Oh, I'm a non-drinker, I don't drink," I'm telling you, Rima, that changed everything. Because suddenly, I mean, I have alcohol in my house. I mean, I have a complete bar. I have wine. I have champagne for people when they come. I'm not even on my worst day tempted by it because it's just, I've identified myself as a non-drinker, just to give you an example. So I think we need to change our identity. And that's really what these kids got, is they got this ability to say, I'm part of something now. And that's who I am. And it doesn't matter if it's called popular or unpopular, it's a group, it's a community.
Thank you for that. The belonging part really, really touches me because I feel that a lot of individuals in the world are looking for that belonging. What happened to you when your spouse passed? Would you mind
Mm,
going into that?
of course, of course. It's really a pillar, a defining moment in my life, because I think at some point, from going to being single and just losing an election and then meeting him, he helped me restore my dignity to feel like I was something and someone. I was suddenly at one point this man's wife, who he was very prominent in town. He was the head of a company, well respected. And so I had an identity of being his wife. That was big. But what I didn't have during the marriage, which was we had an amazing marriage and grateful for every moment. We traveled a lot. I could do whatever I wanted. I had all the money I needed. Didn't think about, oh, I can't have that, or I have to save for that. We just didn't have that situation. So I was very blessed. But I remember one morning when I wasn't working anymore and I was in the shower, I was getting ready to go to a board meeting, and I was just sitting there going, huh, this is it? Huh. Okay. There's got to be more. And it was, I was content, but I was also satiated. I was satisfied, but to be the point of beyond being satisfied, it's this just the decisions of like, where do you want to go to dinner tonight? And it's like, I don't care. Where do you want to go? These are things that I used to in the past. Like, I can't wait. I get to treat myself to a dinner out. And it became I don't care, wherever you want to go. And so I didn't have any purpose. It wasn't that I regret that time, but it was those years that really gave me, it was almost like a rest or a respite. And I wasn't really motivated to do anything. So when, I guess 7 years ago, it might have been, he said, long term, we really should consider selling Argentina, the place here, because I want to make sure you have enough money, that we're settled, that we're okay, and everything's going to be all right. And I was devastated because I love it here and I loved the back and forth, and we were spending time traveling so much. And we had got into, I went to out, we were in St. Petersburg, right? We lived, and I went out that day, and I was actually at a funeral of a very prominent person. And I was reconnecting with all the people that I was connected with again, back at, my career days. And I was so jazzed. I'm like, oh, here, I'm networking again. I'm plugging back in. And we were leaving to go to Buenos Aires 2 weeks later and to talk about selling. And I got home late that evening, and he said, where have you been? And we got in the biggest fight about it. And I said, look, I need a purpose. If we're going to be back here full time, I need you to tell me how you see this going. I need something to do. I can't just be here all day and just hanging out. We were going back and forth. Had things we were doing in life. And I said, don't answer me now. Just think about it and let me know. And that was, I think, on a Thursday. And then on a Saturday morning, he went out for his run, and I was going to yoga at the beach. I had this beach yoga, this class that I loved. And I passed him on the bridge and drove over there. And I passed him on the bridge and I waved at him, and he'd been running. Went to yoga. I got home and he wasn't there. I thought, that's strange. We were going to go sailing that afternoon in the boat and all this stuff. And I'm like, I wonder where he is. So I got in the shower. I called, and he still wasn't home. And I thought, what's going on? So I started to panic a little bit. I called the police. I called the hospitals. I'm like, I was overreacting. Long and short of it is, he passed. He died instantly of a massive heart attack on the path that he was running. And yeah, my life changed in a moment, in an instant. And I really say that to say that, well, the conversation we had two days before, I never got the answer. He never answered me before he passed. Now, that gave me a thought, like sometime later, is maybe he did give me the answer. And maybe it was, now it's your time to do what you were called to do. And so to me, this is an opportunity at 45 years old and he died prematurely at a younger age. Whereas if he would have died later, I probably wouldn't have had the years that I have now to be able to really make an impact. So it was an opportunity for me to say, okay, I can either just sit back and sip pina coladas on a beach somewhere and hang out and enjoy the rest of my life. But I knew that I had a purpose. I knew there was something I was supposed to do, and I'd put it aside for a time. And I didn't know exactly what it would be, but I knew it'd be something. I never thought it'd be coaching. I never thought it'd be speaking. I just knew it was something. And so this is where we are today. And really, that loss was very difficult. Luckily, we communicated very well on finances, and I knew exactly what was going on. He taught me how to trade and invest. So I was good at that, and I had that all set up. So I really am big about people really preparing themselves and thinking ahead about, educating each other on what's going on. I teach a course on that, and I've done a lot of things with that. And I just think it's so important to prepare everyone emotionally, financially. And yeah, I've had a lot of difficult things that went on after that. But ultimately, I think it gave me strength and courage to push myself and to figure out what I can do. So.
I went through a period where I lost my sister
Mm.
to cancer. And I can tell you, I felt like I wasn't present for almost 2 years. I obviously was. And I went through all the emotions and still ran my business and took care. But for almost 2 years, I couldn't recall a lot of the things that went on. Ask me now, it's like, I don't really remember. Would you like elaborate on what it felt like for you to, this is someone that you love, this was your best friend at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and you were already in that motion of, I need to show up a little more for my life. So what did that feel like to you, and how did you get yourself out of it? Because there's a lot of
Oh,
women
that's
that are
great.
not going through a spouse passing, but they're still going through that yanks of like, what's next in life?
Yeah, yeah, because I think that happened to a lot of people. It doesn't have to be the loss of a spouse or a divorce or anything. It could be the loss of a job. I think during the pandemic, it gave a lot of us pause to take a moment and say, am I really living the life I want to live? And so I think this message applies to everyone who's at a point, even in our 20s and early 30s, we're still discovering ourselves. And we're always asking, especially women, I think, if we don't have a partner, we're not married yet, maybe we want kids and we're worried about that happening. And are we going to meet the person and have the family in time and all of this? It's really important to check in with ourselves and have that intuition, just say, am I on the right path, and ask God and pray, and however, in whatever way that you tap in. But yeah, during those first 2 years, I can agree with you completely. I think in these moments of loss, everyone handles it differently. I think for me, I thought that if he had passed, I would be in a fetal position in the corner for months, and people would have to, like bang the door down. That wasn't me at all. It ended up being, I was like, okay, what do we have to do here? We have to write, I just took charge like a project manager, and I didn't feel anything. I went into like, project management mode. And I agree with you. It's that 2 years of going through the motions. I didn't have a job or a career. I don't have children. I didn't have anybody that I really had to be accountable to, per se. So I really had to reinvent my life in a way, like a daily basis. Like, what do I do when I wake up in the morning? We were together every day. We cooked together. We did all these different things, and we were companions every day. So my life looked very different, and I had to create it from scratch. And so in the beginning, ended up taking the trip back to Buenos Aires, and I have good friends here that became even better friends that supported me. My best friend, who is a widow as well, she lost her husband 6 years before me. She just took the role on as being my guide, and I love her forever for it. Um, but they just said, Jill, just stay busy, stay busy. Let's go out. They took me out all the time. Um, and like I said, everyone grieves differently. As I say, I had my period of partying like a rock star, everything short of drugs. I was smoking cigarettes, drinking, having a good time, going out with friends every single moment I could think of. If it was lunch, dinner, I had three things in one night. If I had a break in my calendar, I'd panic. And so my life looked like I didn't care he died. In fact, a former best friend who's not a friend anymore said to me at one point, it looks like you're almost happy he died. And that was really sad to me. That hurt a lot. And it wasn't that I was happy he died. I just said everyone grieves differently. And I realized that some people hide, some people isolate, some people get upset, they get mad, they do different things. We all have different ways of being. My way was to ignore the feelings, to just stay busy, to drink, to self-medicate that way, to validate to get validation from other men. I went through that stage the first 2 years, lots of that, and not in a relationship capacity, but in other ways. And you know, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't a pretty situation, but I don't think grief is pretty. It's not supposed to be. And so I think everyone who is going through a change in life, just accept yourself, love yourself, be kind to yourself, and be willing to make mistakes and not judge yourself for it. And so after 2 years, I think after that numbness, I did go out and I was seeking a coach and others to really work on myself. And that's when I got involved in some Tony Robbins things and started going to his events and then really connected with that community and just decided I needed to make a shift. And that's how I did.
I know exactly what you're talking about. When my sister died, the day that she passed, I couldn't handle the ambulance coming out, and she was with me. I couldn't
Mhm.
handle them coming out to take her and all of that. And the only thing I could do is I lived in Vegas at the time. I left the house afterwards and I went to the casino and just sat there at a machine like numbed, not having to think, just pushing buttons. Because
Yep.
that was my coping mechanism. But I can understand what you're talking about, the judgment piece that we lay on other people, that we have no clue what they're going through and what their capacity is, or what their capacity is not. That's a big piece for us as women and even men to really pay attention to. How do we treat each other when life is happening to us?
Mm.
How did you end up finding yourself again?
Oh, well, like I was saying, yeah. And I think it was a matter of at some point, the self-medicating, the drinking, it just stopped satisfying. It stopped working. It was like the being satiated I said about having the ability to go out to dinner every night if I wanted to, whenever I wanted to. It was so much that it wasn't even working anymore.
Yeah, the band-aids were not working anymore.
Yeah, and there was so many highs and lows, and I was feeling depressed in the middle of the week, and then I'd have so much like the weekends and going and doing all this stuff, and then by Monday morning, just like, whoa, the roller coaster of highs and lows. And I just said something's got to change. And I remember telling my coach at the time, I said, I know that if I stopped drinking, it would be a game changer. And it was a year later that I actually did that, but um, I would say this is why I have a YouTube channel, and I'm always grateful for you as well, and so many others that have the courage to write the book, to do the channel, to put out content, to share and share your experiences with others, because I had those moments where I would get on YouTube or I'd listen to something and it helped me. And so everyone has a message, as I say, I believe that every person on this planet has a message to share that someone needs to hear. And every day you don't share that message, someone is suffering. And so have the courage, even if you think you're still walking in it and you don't have it, you're going to wait till you've arrived and you've survived it and you're thriving in it to then tell the story after. No, because guess what? The best country western songs ever are written when someone just broke up with somebody, right? They just then lost their dog and their girlfriend left them. And those are the best songs. And we need to tell the story sometimes when we're in the middle, because it's the realest, it's the rawest, it's when we can really relate the most and people will feel us the most. And you want to give people that story that you've gone through because it helps them know they're not alone. It gives them hope. It helps them to see what's possible. Even if you're just one step ahead, if you're 2 weeks ahead of someone else, you have something to give. And so I really believe that. And so for me, it was YouTube, it was channels, it was books, it was, I mean, gosh, Mel Robbins, the 5 second rule, that was huge at the time. And then it was like, Abraham Hicks and Byron Katie. My gosh, I love Byron Katie. I remember just binging her audiobook one time and sitting on that sofa and looking out the window. And I sat there nonstop and finished it. And I had 4 events to go to that night, drinking events, cocktail parties, dinners, this and that. And I sat there and looked out the window and I couldn't move for 3 hours. And I'm not someone who sits still. Do not sit still. And so I sat there and I kept saying, now what am I supposed to do? It's just so many different people have affected and different people have served. So those were all steps for me on my journey. And so I just took action. I think when we get that little still small voice or that gut feeling that, oh, I should buy that book, or I need to call someone for help. I need to work with a coach. You'll know. And when you get that pull, like I need to know more, seek it and find people that can help you on that journey. It's really hard to grow alone in silence and in isolation. And I've done a lot of isolation in the past couple of years myself. And I'll tell you, our brains can make us crazy. We have to have connection with people. We have to be able to learn from someone. We have to be able to share our own experiences with other people. And that's what I think I did, is just getting involved with Tony Robbins, going to the first event I did in December of 2018. I went to Date with Destiny. And then I got into business mastery and I said, I want to start coaching. And so I did the coaching certification. And then I joined Platinum Partners, and that opened up a whole new world for me of people. And talk about the top 33%. I had that on steroids and it just shifted. So I'd say get in a community, get into something, find a coach, someone that's going to help you, and just plug in and connect, I think is the big one.
Do you think that you are, in the sense, more worthy of yourself right now than in the years through the marriage where you were you were there,
Mm-hmm.
you were enjoying it, but
Mm-hmm.
now it's you. Do you feel more worthy of yourself?
I love that question. That's an interesting way that you asked that. I think I've always been worthy. I think I just didn't see it. And not that I didn't see it, I didn't believe it. It took a lot of reconditioning and deprogramming tapes and messages in my head of what I was told. I was the bad girl. I was the unpopular girl. I was I was too much. And women, we are always in our too muchness, and we have to embrace our too muchness. And in finding a partner, find a partner who will love your too muchness and not talk down to you and tell you that, oh, you're talking to, no, don't ever. You got to find that person who can handle you. I love that Matthew Hussey. He's one of my favorites in relationships. He says, you got to find someone who can handle you. I think it's this, just being for me, it's being my best self. It's knowing, it's starting to believe others, it's starting to, when others tell you something, finding people that will lift you up, and if you're with people that are going to pull you down and always saying things about you that make you feel bad about yourself, find other places to be. And even if there's people you can't change in your life, there are always ways you can find people that will uplift you and help you get where you want to go. I think my worthiness, like I said, is something that I'm aware of now. I still struggle with it. Let me tell you, it has nothing to do with what worthiness is. Not about what you do or are not doing. If I have a terrible accident tomorrow and I'm in bed for the rest of my life and I can't move, am I still as worthy as I was today? Yes. Worthiness is not based on how we perform or what we do or our actions, because we're all divine beings and we're all created by God, or however we choose to believe. For me, I choose God. I was created by God, and in his goodness and his perfection, his divinity, I am divine. And so I lean into that. And that's what I try to remind myself every day, and not say, oh, I didn't do what I wanted to do today. I'm not as worthy today as I was yesterday. I'd say, oh, really? This is Byron Katie's work. Is that true? I'm going into inquiry. Is that true, Jill? Huh. No. Okay. Then let's keep going. Rewrite the script. Start over. How do you want to feel today? You are worthy.
Thank you for that incredible, authentic answer, Jill. There are so many women that feel unworthy in who they are because they're listening to the voices or to the people outside of them that are telling them that unless they're doing this or that, or they look a certain way, or they have so many followers, it's like, that's garbage. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. Your worthiness is always with you. You simply have to figure out what you need to do to continue on your own path of being worthy of yourself, that you're always worthy, no matter what. Would you tell me why you began the dating company? I know you're no longer running it. You're doing
Yes.
more the connections and the life
Oh,
coaching and
wow.
all of that. But I'd
Yeah.
love, like, what was that for?
Once again, I'd say the matchmaking service that I started here. I started it about a year and a half after my husband died, and it was out of necessity. I had a friend who said, "Oh, you've got to get on the dating apps." I'm like, "Okay." So I tried that out, and it became just a full-time job. Anybody who's been on dating apps will go, "Oh yeah, I hear you, sister. I know it's a full-time job." And so I literally, the very analytical and process-oriented person that I am, I was overwhelmed with all the chatting and the texts and which one was this and which one said that, who said that. And I had to create a spreadsheet, and I'm like putting it all together like this person. And I was, trying to recall what I said to that person. It was a crazy thing, which I've actually, since the dating matchmaking service, I did create a dating like a pro program that I was running a group coaching situation out of, which is really fantastic because it helps cut through all of that mess. Because I developed all these tips and tricks on how to do it, but it became so overwhelming. And I remember I was showing a friend the spreadsheet, this one friend of mine, and he's like, "Oh my God, Jill, you need a Tindervention." And so I'm like, okay. So then another friend said, we should start a matchmaking service here in Argentina. And I'm like, huh. And we'd been drinking at a bar or something in this really cool hotel one night. And she's telling me this, and I'm writing it on a napkin, some ideas. And, we always get these ideas when we're drinking and we're writing it down on a napkin, and you wake up the next day and you look at the napkin. You can't, one, read what you wrote, because you probably had been drinking too much, and you throw it out. But I actually got that napkin the next day. I looked at it and I'm like, and usually they're terrible ideas, right? I looked at the napkin the next day and went, huh, that's actually a good idea. So long and short is I started the service, and because it was so overwhelming to try to figure out how to do this dating apps and stuff. So it was an old school matchmaking service. And that's why I started it, was really because of me. I saw that a lot of other people were having the same problem. And that's how I got into coaching too, because once I started it and I was meeting with clients, I realized that, generally speaking, it's not really the matches, it's the mindset. And so I realized that it was only really 20% matching and it was 80% coaching that was required. So that's how I got into getting certified to coach. And why I went to Date with Destiny was, I thought, I'm going to learn how to help my clients. Well, I realized I was the one who needed the help, but through the journey and how I've helped myself, I'm able to help others. But yeah, I think I'm just infatuated with, and just fascinated is probably a better word, with human behavior and relationships, and personal relationships, specifically love relationships. And so I've always been on this journey of just learning and studying that process, because it really, for the clients I had and for a lot of people I know, we will set up roadblocks. We will look for things that are wrong. We will find a way to explain why this person isn't right for us, instead of looking for what's right, and for really putting out there the energy of what we do want, instead of the I don't want that. And when we say I don't want that, we're going to get more of that. So that's why.
That's a great one because I think a lot of people don't get that. The more negative things you put out there, the more that you're attracting to it, because that's all the universe hears is that that's
Focus.
what you're talking about. Okay, I'll send you that.
Yeah. It doesn't understand negative and positive. Like I want, I don't. It's the do and no. It's just, yeah. Yes. The more we resist, the more it persists. Yes.
And now your current role is doing connections and coaching. What do you see happening as you build that even further? What would you like to see for the people that you're working with, for the people that you connect with? What's the destiny for
Yeah. That was actually the name of my company, Destiny Matchmakers.
that?
Destiny is, I think, I want people to have access to all of the amazing people that I've met and the resources I've met, I've come across along the way in my journey. And I'm the type of person that when I read a book or I hear something or I meet someone, I mean, it's like input, output. I'm thinking, I got this. This is amazing. Who do I know that needs this? Output. And it's never just keep it for myself. It's just it has to go out somewhere. It's not just for me, it's for me and how many other people can get from this, can get this something from this. And so the idea of Jill Collins Connections is to connect you to what I call the Piper effect. It's people, information, places, experiences, and resources. And so it's a vast array of different things and ideas, but it's helping you get to a summit life experience. The summit being the top. Like if you have a good relationship, that's fantastic. But do you want to have the best relationship? How can you do that? And I've had so many places and people that I've met along the way, to use that as an example, is giving you the best relationship experts. So it's through my YouTube channel, through hopefully coming up, not hopefully, but events, other experiences, other ways to create having a community where you can actually meet some of these people, ask them questions, and really tap into the best of the best. And so it's just that, again, it's that casting a wide net. It's creating this opportunity for people who don't have access or don't know where to get it or who to go to, because we have so much information today. I mean, we can spend the rest of our lives in a jail cell. If we had a phone and an internet connection and YouTube and all these different things, we would never be bored, because we could just sit there and watch YouTube videos all day. We could sit there and read books all day. We could communicate with people all day. But how do you know what's the best? How do you know what direction to go in? And to me, this is a big part of it. So it's really just opening up my Rolodex, my connections, my contacts, all of my resources, and say, here's what's available. What do you need? And that's what I'm doing, is just connecting people with all of the different things that are really amazing to live their best lives.
I
Yeah.
would love for you to touch on the best life part, because it's wonderful to connect with individuals that are higher levels, that are doing things on a scale that you may not be. How are you ensuring that that individual is showing up as themselves so they don't end up living lives that are unfulfilled, really? It doesn't
Mm.
matter whether they have the houses and the boats and the whatever, but how are they fulfilled? Because you understand that better than anyone.
Yeah, it's taken a long time. I've had it all. I've had nothing. When I was younger, it was, saving money and being in debt I didn't always have money. Believe me, we were blue collar growing up. We didn't have a lot. And so we did. I mean, it was good. Grew up well, but it wasn't with it like everybody else. And, I would say living my best life, and how do I do that? And how do I connect and saying it's more? And it really amounts to knowing my purpose, knowing what it is that you're called to do. I think until we do that and we really have that idea and really feel it, we're just driving down the road and we're bumping into curbs, rolling over curbs, it can be messy. It can be a great life. I mean, believe me, you can have a great life. You can have a really good life, but do you want an amazing summit life? To me, and the only way to get that has nothing to do with how much money you have, with what you do in life, who you know. It has to do with, am I aligned with my purpose? If my purpose is to feed the hungry and I'm working soup kitchens every day, fantastic. You're going to feel amazing because you know you are aligned with your purpose, that you have the reason you have, that God created you, or that you feel like you've been created and what you've been called to do. You will never be, you will be so satisfied. But seeking what others have and trying to, there's one thing to try to be like them. But this true seeking is to know in our souls and to go deep within, to pray, meditate, and then to align. When I say find people that are where you want to be, is it first starts with knowing that purpose. And when I say I want to be, I'm called to serve the masses, to work in some capacity of making change in government and in politics, in policy, I go, okay, who do I need to know who's in that area? Because that aligns with me. Whereas, oh, I see a lot of people are driving around with cars and they're creating programs and they're doing all these great things and they're selling their programs and they're doing all this. And I'm like, I should be doing that. And then suddenly there's a bunch of confusion and it feels really unsettling to me because I feel overwhelmed. And that's my first cue. I'm learning this now. It's very new. So I'm just 2 weeks ahead of somebody else here. It's not like I've had this wisdom for years. I'm still playing with it. So, but it's when I start getting that confusion and that state of overwhelm, I sit back and I have to meditate and really be with myself and go, God, is this, show me what I'm not seeing. Show me, give me a miracle. Show me something else. This feels unsettling to me. And when I do that, I usually am seeing it's where I'm trying to align with something I'm forcing something. And so there's resistance. And so it's fear. One, we have to notice, is it fear that it is what it's called to do. If it's speaking and I'm afraid to speak, that's one thing. But if it's, okay, I think I'm supposed to be doing all this stuff because everybody's doing it and this is it, and stop. Even if you are the only person on the planet who is called to do what you think you're called to do it. Don't worry about what anybody says. Don't worry about what your family thinks. Another great book, The Big Leap, one of my favorites by Dr. Gay Hendricks, a must. There's the upper limit problem. There's things that will stop us, and we have to be willing to stand alone. We have to be willing to go and do it anyway. And when we're aligned and we have trusted that intuition, that's another one. The intuition is really the one, is the intuition will say, don't do that. Then the brain goes, oh, but it's not that bad. You can do that. You can do that. I've seen you do that before. Just, it's my favorite one, my own voice. I'm telling you my little script. Suck it up. You can do that. Suck it up, buttercup. Let's go. Make it happen. Just go do it anyway. And the intuition's going, no. And that's when we get into trouble, when there's confusion and there's dis-ease, discomfort in our body about something. That's our intuition going, think again. Stop. Look at what you're doing.
So well said. Would you touch on living in Argentina part-time and then living in the States? And what are the biggest differences in connections and community and the things that you live on a daily basis? What are the differences? What are similarities? Because I happen to have grown up in Lebanon for part of my life. So I got to see a different culture and the way the connections are made. Would you elaborate on that and what it feels like to you? Because you come from the Midwest. You grew up in the States, but you had the privilege of now living in Argentina part-time.
Yeah. I think, well, it's two different things. I think living in a foreign country as a foreigner is one thing. Being raised in a country and that being your home country is a different experience. I would say I'm speaking to living in Argentina as a foreigner. It is amazing. I think being, if you're an expat working in a different country for a couple of years and you're living somewhere and you connect with an expat community or a group of foreigners, it can be a really incredible experience. I think for me, experiencing the Argentine culture in Buenos Aires is one that is very unique and very special. I think what I see, and I see it in other countries too, but this one specifically is very European in nature. And there's a cafe culture. We don't work to live, we live to work. And so it's you will take 2 hours in a coffee shop or call your friend, like after this, I could say, call my friend and say, hey, what are you doing? You want to meet for a coffee? And she's like, yeah, give me 20 minutes. I'll be there. Whereas in the US, if I said that to anybody, it'd be like, oh, I'm working, or I'm busy already. And so how about next week? Or let's catch up. My favorite one, let's catch up soon, which means never, right? Um, Here I can call anyone at any time and go out and have a coffee. I can say to someone, hey, I really need help. I'm not feeling well today. I'm really down. And they're here in a minute. And that's not necessarily the Argentine culture, but that's the culture, I think, of when we're living in a different place. And I've heard this of other people. I just did an interview with a friend who lives in London and who has this expat community that she's had for years, and she's amazing, Liana Neal. And she says, being in another country, we all kind of connect. We find each other. We kind of glob onto each other. And you hear someone speaking English, and I used to do this all the time. It's like I'd be in a deli or an Italian market, and I'd hear this couple talking in English, and I'd say, "Oh, hey." And then next thing you know, I'm like, "Come to my house. I'm having a cocktail at my house tonight, a cocktail party." And then they'd show up, and it's like, would I have done that in the US? No. But I mean, for some reason, we just open ourselves up so much more because we want to connect and we want to feel welcome or feel at home, I guess. So it's perfect for me for connecting because I have the most amazing parties and get-togethers here, and we're always planning something crazy and doing something fun. And my Instagram sometimes looks a little crazy, but I have lots of fun friends here, and we do a lot of cool things. So I like that about it. In the U.S., I feel like it's more of a culture where we work and then we find time when we can. It's just driven differently. There's not time just to kind of screw off and sort of do nothing without feeling guilty about it. And here it's just the norm. It's just people value their families, their friends. It's top priority almost over anything. And so I really enjoyed over the past 14 years being here to experience that culture. And I've taken on a good bit of that myself, and I live by a lot of that now.
That's wonderful to hear. Thank you for explaining that so
Yeah,
well. I
yeah.
interviewed a gentleman by the name of Rob Nash, who's a musician in Canada, and his family comes from also South America. So when he went back home, everyone would drop everything because he was there so they could spend time with him. And he said when someone came to visit him, he had to make an appointment to actually invest time with them. So that psychology and that way of being that we think we're moving forward, we may not. The downtime and the connection times are the right times. So when you are doing Jill Collins connections, I got excited. It's like that's what we're looking for, better connections with everyone. Jill,
Yeah.
how do people reach you? I have a couple more questions, but how do people connect with you, reach you so that they know how to get in touch with you?
Thank you. I don't really have a product to sell per se or anything like that, but I really would love people to check out the YouTube channel. It's Jill Collins Connections. All of my social media is at the arroba in Spanish at I am Jill Collins. You can find me on I am Jill Collins. You can find me on everything from LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I think we cover it all. And then the YouTube channel, which is really amazing. I have a few interviews there, and we've got a bunch more that are launching every week now. And so soon I'll be doing even some of my own thoughts and videos on topics that I love. But for now, we're doing interviews. And then the website I have is jillcollins.com. And that will be continue to be added to as well. So check that out. But I think the big one is YouTube. I'm really proud of that because the people that I've been interviewing, one, I just adore them, and I think that they have so much to offer. And I think people would really get a lot out of that. So definitely check that out.
Thank you for sharing that. Jill, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. What do
Perfect.
you think is the difference between the upper 33% then from the average individuals that are looking to create better lives for themselves? What are some of the
Mm.
things that you could point and go, these are things you could work on if you're looking to have your best life and become your best self?
That's a great question because the 33% rule is my favorite. In fact, it's on my Instagram in my bio. I have a graphic that I've had made about it, and anybody could grab it. It's free. But if you don't know, I'll briefly explain it, and then I'll answer your question. Is the 33% rule is, imagine there's like a triangle, and there are three sections. There's the middle 33%, which is kind of where we are now. It's the people. This is all about your social circle, who you associate with. So we believe that we have three levels, like how we should split our time, 33% with different each section, right? So the middle section of the 33% are people that probably keep us at the status quo. They're probably people we can't necessarily change in our lives. Maybe it's family, it could be friends, coworkers, those kinds of things. People that help us. It's in our comfort zone, and we are probably often tugged a little bit and thinking like, I should be doing more. I feel like I want more of it, but I'm here and I'm kind of stuck. And then there's the bottom 33%. It's not necessarily a bottom, but it's the people that sometimes can actually pull us down. And even people in the middle, 33% can as well. But these are people who are behind us, maybe that we can help put, give a hand to and help pull them up. And then there's the top 33%. And that's the part that I focus on the most, because to me, that's where we lack. And that's where we really need more of. And this is where I had this idea several years ago to create a community for women, after a business mastery event, where I said, I don't have people in my top 33%. I'm like, how do I do that? And I'm sitting around with 2,500 people at this event. And I'm like, I've been meeting people. I'm like, well, they're here. So I created a group, of course. And so I started this group with people to align and to lift up. So your question was, making sure I'm getting this right, is how do we find that to live our best life? Where do we get to the space of that?
So that people can figure out, how do I get to be my best self and live my best life, so that they are moving upward within themselves, within their
Gotcha.
lives, not necessarily against someone else. So
Right,
what have you
exactly.
learned? Yeah.
Yeah, so I get it. Okay, so really, it's not like we are at any stage or any level. We don't want to say that we're there, but really, in order to live our best life, it's really seeing more and not necessarily associating ourselves in any one area. It's really going and saying, how can I up level? You can't necessarily change. You don't want to change people, but you want to have a balance. And so you really want to have that balance of finding others that are where you want to go. I think I'm answering that in the way that you're asking. It's really seeking, it's seeking people who are not going to bring you down. And we have to do an assessment, because guess what? People who are in my 33% top may be different than yours. And I've noticed too, is that my top 33% can sometimes at some point in my life as I grow become my middle 33%. And it's like, okay, they always say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So at some point when we start elevating it, so we may have to adjust the roster a little bit. We might have to say, you know what, who are some new people that I need to meet? And we constantly are shifting and evolving and trying to get to that next, to people that are going to continue to challenge us and help us grow. It's not that we're leaving people behind, but we also want to remember, where are we spending our time? I think that's the key, is who are we spending the most time with? And so if we find ourselves hanging out every weekend at the tailgating, or we're going out and hanging out with friends that are just not really helping us, making us, it's just that getting by kind of thing in life, is, if that's satisfying for some people, perfect, no judgment. But if there's that gnawing at you, kind of going, oh, I just really want to do more, and I'm saying things and I'm talking about people, maybe I'm having this conversation about politics and judging everybody all the time, and I just don't like the way I feel about that because my other friends are doing it, cut back on that a little bit and find other people that are where you want to go. Find people who are, if you're wanting to get more spiritually plugged in, find some people that are spiritual leaders, or people that are walking the walk and are where you want to go, and kind of dip a toe in there and start getting in that space a little bit more. And you might find that some of the people that you're in that regular circle with will fall off a little bit. They won't relate to you as much as they used to. And you know what? That's okay. Don't be afraid of loss. Don't be afraid of not being included or not being chosen, because there's a greater path. There's a bigger path. There's a next level. And that's the place you want to go. So don't be afraid to let go and find the next one and keep going.
Thank you. I think
Yeah.
it's so crucial for people to understand that their life is theirs and they get to create out of it what they need to. And all these different levels, you said it best. It's not that you're leaving someone behind, but you're improving who you are, or your thought process has changed. And how else are you going to move forward unless you continue to look within and build yourself up so that you
Mm.
become what you need to be.
I'll give
Uh,
you another quick example on
mhm.
that I think is relevant to what you asked me earlier too, is when I decided to stop drinking, I hadn't planned on it really. I said I was going to someday kind of thing, and I knew it would be a game changer. And then one of my best friends here said, I really want to lose weight before I go back to the US for this trip we're doing in 4 weeks. And she said, I need to stop drinking. And she said, would you do it with me? And I'm like, yeah, sure. For you, I'll do anything, of course. Because we had all these events we were going to every night. And she's like, I can't be the only one not drinking. So I'm like, sure. And so we hung out and we did all these things, right? And I started to wonder, I thought, oh my God, if I keep this up, I'm going to lose all my friends. Because my whole life after my husband died was based on these social events and drinking. And people would call, instead of saying, let's meet for coffee, they'd say, hey, it's lunch. You want to go have lunch, which I knew meant bottles of champagne, lunch, and then we'd go into the afternoon and totally blow off the rest of the day. And then there'd be something else at night. And so I knew I was blowing the rest of the day. And so I said, what's going to happen in my social life? And I really got scared because that was my way of like coping. And so I actually I found an AA meeting here. And not that I felt like I needed that, but I found an English speaking one. And so I went because I was trying to find a new community that I could relate to get me in that new space to kind of move forward, right? In case I lost everybody, right? I had to have a replacement. So I did for a while, maybe a few months, and that was okay. It was good. But here's what happened. The friends that I had and all this huge circle of people that were always going out all the time, it cut back a lot. People didn't invite me to things as much, or I didn't go to things as much. But those close friends, the ones that did stay around, some were just, they weren't like close friends, anybody that I didn't associate with. There's people that you got together with to drink with. But the close friends, they stopped they started drinking less, or they stayed with what they were doing. But I developed even stronger bonds with them. To this day, the friends that are still around, I have conversations with on levels like this that I never had before. It was more of, oh my God, can you believe what we did last night? Oh my God, how many bottles did we drink? Holy shit. Oh my God, how late were we out? Oh my God, did you see so and so? They fell off the freaking bar. They were dancing and oh my God, that was hilarious. That was the conversations. That was the kind of life. And so suddenly as my mind cleared and I started to change who I was, my identity, others followed suit and they up leveled by being around it. So the impact we have in our circles as we up level, some people we take with us and others will fall away, and that's okay. But seek out the places and the people, even just one, to help you get to the next level.
That's so important. That is so important. I interviewed a gentleman from a school in India called Shanti Bhavan. Let's give them a shout out. They actually take in kids from really uh, uh, poverty-driven homes, and they take them on full force. They live with them. They stay at the school. It's a boarding school, so they take care of everything. And the reason I'm bringing it up is the change in the kids as they level up within who they are and what they're learning. Now they're in an atmosphere that's positive, and yet as they go home on certain holidays and they see the difference, being able to stay in tune to who they are and allowing themselves to continue to grow instead of stepping back because they are at a different capacity than they were. So you talking about your growth and seeing how you go from one level to another within you and being able to let go of friends that no longer serve you, not because there's anything wrong with that. Same thing
Mm-mm.
with these kids, those conversations, seeing that even though they're leveling them up, there's still that pull and push within them to continue to grow. So thank you for touching on that in
And
your
I bet
own
those
way.
Yeah, and I bet those kids that they went back and visited or saw the friends or people, those kids looked at them and said, which is my favorite line and why I loved creating Jill Collins connections with these opportunities for hear people speak, is I want people to walk away saying, I can do that. I didn't know that was possible. And so when we share and we go back and people see how far we've come, they see possibility. They see hope. They see they see themselves. They see who they're really meant to be. And that's the beauty of it all.
But you are entirely correct in that. That's exactly what happens to these kids as they graduate high school and they go on to college and they go back and they start to actually help their communities to build and pull some of the people out into better levels. So yes, it gives them hope that it's doable for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Jill, if I put you right now in front of a whole bunch of young ladies that are in their early 20s, what would you say to them?
Hmm. Follow your own dream and don't compare yourself to others. I think that's what most people, so many women do in their 20s, is they're looking at everybody else to figure out who they're supposed to be. And the sooner you can figure that out, the better you will be, the happier you will be, the easier your journey will be. When you feel like you're not enough or you're not as good as, or you, again, that's so who your social circles are. If you feel like you're dumbing yourself down, atrophying, so to speak, like fitting in and doing things that don't really align with really who you are, and you know in your heart, you know in your spirit, you know in your soul, I shouldn't be sitting in this group. This isn't right for me. Be conscious and ask yourself, and then say, who am I really? Who am I really, and who do I really want to be? And there's a great book that I think every woman in her 20s, I'm just going through it. I haven't read it all yet, but I tell you, I got through the 16 pages and it took me 2 hours because I was highlighting and taking notes of this book. And it's new. It's Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown.
Mm.
The courage of to stand alone, having the courage to stand alone. And I'm telling you, this book was like, it's almost the opposite of connection, but it's not. It's basically saying being willing to stand alone, even if no one agrees with you. And this is all of what we're talking about, because I also believe that there's this opportunity, that there's a connection, there's somewhere where you're going to align with someone. And don't settle for what's easy, and don't walk through life on this thing going like all the time, let me just stay busy and numb myself. This is another great buffer or self-medicating thing that we can get lost in for hours, and our life goes by in a second with this thing. So spend less time on social media and be really intentional and take time to sit with yourself in meditation and prayer and tap into your higher being and who you are, and and don't overthink it.
Jill, thank you, thank you, thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you for your authenticity throughout this conversation,
Of
for
course.
being you, and for being honest about it all. I love you very much.
I love you too. I'm so
Thank
excited.
you.
Thank you so much for having me, Rima. You're a gem. You're so,
Thank
so
you.
precious.
And to our wonderful listeners, please remember our attitude always, always determines our altitude. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.